Captain Kim Tae stood on the bridge of the Silent Thunder and watched the enemy ships appear in space around them. The alien vessels were huge, much bigger than anything humans had ever built. Each one was the size of a small moon, and they glowed, with golden light that hurt to look at directly. Tae knew these ships belonged to the Valorian Empire, the aliens who had ruled over Earth for 50 long years. The Valorians had come to collect tribute again, just like they did every few months. They wanted metals and crystals, and sometimes they took humans away to work as slaves on distant worlds. Tai hated giving them anything but Earth, had no choice. The last time humans tried to fight back the aliens had destroyed 3 entire cities with their plasma weapons. Dr. Park Min walked up beside him on the bridge. She was the smartest person Tae had ever met, and she had spent years working on secret technology that might save them all. Her hands shook a little as she looked at the enemy fleet through the big window. The phase drive she had invented was untested and dangerous, but it was their only hope now. The Silent Thunder was not like other human ships. It looked normal from the outside, but inside, it was full of strange machines that could do impossible things. Park Min had discovered how to make matter slip between dimensions, like water flowing through cracks. The ship could become invisible and untouchable, but the process used so much power that it might destroy them. All on the main screen, Tae could see the lead Valorian ship. It was shaped like a crystal pyramid and covered in weapons that could melt planets. The alien commander, Lord Vextar, was probably sitting inside right now, deciding how many humans to take as slaves this time. The golden-skinned aliens thought humans were stupid animals, good only for heavy work. Tae pressed a button and spoke to his crew all over the ship. They were good people who had volunteered for this dangerous mission. Engineer Lee Soo was in the engine room making sure the strange machines stayed working. Navigator Chobin was at her station, tracking the positions of all the enemy ships. Medical officer Dr. Yoon Ha was ready to help anyone who got hurt when the phase drive activated. The captain looked at Park Min and saw fear in her eyes, but also determination. She had lost her family when the aliens attacked Seoul 5 years ago, and she wanted revenge just like everyone else on the ship. They all had reasons to fight, even if it meant dying in space far from home. Lord Vexitar sent a message to all human ships in the area. His voice was cold and mechanical through the translation device. He demanded that they surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection. The aliens always acted like they owned everything, including human lives. Tae made his decision and gave the order to activate the phase drive. Park Min ran to her control station and began pressing buttons and switches. The ship started to vibrate and strange lights appeared in the air. Everyone could feel something changing around them, like the air itself was becoming thicker. The phase drive worked by pushing the ship sideways through reality into a place that existed between normal dimensions. Park Min had discovered this empty space by accident while studying alien technology. The ship would still be there, but not there at the same time, existing in a place where normal sensors could not detect it. Warning lights flashed, red all over the bridge as the phase drive charged up. The power requirements were enormous, and the ship's reactors were working at maximum capacity. Lee Soo reported from engineering that the energy levels were climbing toward dangerous levels, but they had no choice now. Through the windows, everyone could see space itself, beginning to bend and twist around. The Silent Thunder colors that had no names appeared in the air and disappeared just as quickly. The crew felt dizzy and sick as reality shifted around them. Some people said they could hear voices speaking languages that did not exist. Then everything changed at once. The enemy ships vanished from view, but Tae knew they were still there. The Silent Thunder had slipped sideways into phase space, where the aliens could not see them or touch them. They were invisible and safe, but they were also trapped in a place that was never meant for living beings. On his instruments, Tae could still detect the Valorian fleet, but now they showed up as ghost images that flickered and moved strangely. The aliens were scanning space, frantically looking for the human ships that had just disappeared. Lord Vexatar was probably very angry and confused because nothing had ever vanished from Valorian. Sensors before, Dr. Yoon Ha immediately started checking on the crew and found that phase space was already affecting them in strange ways. Some people felt like they were moving very slowly, while others thought time was going too fast. The medical scanners showed impossible readings, as if the crew members were aging backward and forward at the same time. Park Min worked at her station, trying to keep the ship stable in phase space, but the readings on her screens made no sense. The laws of physics worked differently here, and she was learning how to navigate by instinct rather than science. She could see the alien ships through her instruments, but they looked like shadows or dreams. Engineer Lee Su reported that the phase drive was consuming power faster than expected and warned that they might only have a few hours before the ship's systems failed completely. The energy required to exist between dimensions was draining their reactors and backup power systems. Through the strange, twisted view of phase space, the crew watched as the Valorian ships fired their weapons randomly into empty space. The plasma beams passed right through the area where human ships had been moments before. The aliens were shooting at ghosts, and hitting nothing but vacuum navigator Chobin tried to plot a course through phase space, but her instruments kept giving different readings every few seconds. Direction and distance meant nothing in this place between worlds. She could tell they were still near Earth, but phase space seemed to stretch and shrink without warning. The crew realized they had achieved something impossible. They were completely hidden from the most advanced sensors in the galaxy and could observe enemy movements. Without being detected, the Silent Thunder had become a ghost ship that could strike without warning and vanish before the enemy could fight back. But the victory came with a terrible price. Phase space was slowly killing them all. The strange energies that made them invisible were also changing their bodies in ways that Dr. Yoon Ha did not understand. Some crew members reported seeing things that were not there, while others felt like they were becoming transparent. Captain Tay looked at his crew and saw determination mixed with fear. They had taken the first step toward fighting back against their alien oppressors, but they might not survive long enough to use their advantage. The Silent Thunder was now the most powerful weapon in the galaxy, but it was also a death trap that could destroy them all. As the hours passed, the effects of phase space became stronger and stranger. The crew began to understand that they were changing into something new, something that could exist in both normal space and the dimension between worlds. They were becoming more than human, but they might lose their humanity in the process. The invisible Dreadnought drifted through phase space while its crew struggled to survive, and the alien fleet searched desperately for an enemy they could not find. The first battle had been won, but the war for Earth's freedom had only just begun. Ambassador Kang Do sat in the Great Council chamber on Nexus Prime and listened to the alien leaders argue among themselves. The massive room was filled with creatures from dozens of different worlds, all talking at once about the human ships that had simply vanished from existence. 3 days had passed since the incident, and no one could explain what had happened. The Valorian military commander, General Mordak, stood at the center of the chamber, his golden skin glowing brighter when he got angry. He told the assembled aliens that an entire human battle group had disappeared, not destroyed, not fled, but completely removed from reality. His crystalline armor clinked as he moved, and his voice carried the frustration of a warrior who had never faced an unknown enemy. Kang Do kept his face calm and humble, like he had learned to do over 50 years of serving as Earth's representative. He had watched these aliens treat humans like animals for so long that he had almost forgotten what hope felt like. But now something had changed, and he could feel it in the way the other species looked at him with new uncertainty in their eyes. The insectoid hive queens clicked their mandibles together in rapid conversation, their compound. eyes reflecting light like jewels. They had remained neutral in most galactic conflicts, but now they seemed very interested in Earth's defensive capabilities. Their translator devices buzzed as they asked detailed questions about human technology. And military structure, Dr. Park Min worked frantically in her hidden research station deep beneath the surface of Mars. She could detect quantum fluctuations that told her the silent thunder still existed somewhere in phase space. But the readings were getting weaker. The ship was dying, slowly torn apart by forces that should not affect normal matter. She had maybe 6 hours to find a solution. The energy beings called Lumari drifted through the council chamber like living plasma their bodies. Shifting between different colors as they communicated, Park Min's phase drive had created distortions in space-time that the Lumari could sense across the galaxy. They were fascinated by technology that could manipulate dimensions because they existed as pure energy themselves. Back on the Silent Thunder, Captain Tay received Park Min's coded transmission through the quantum link she had built into the ship. The message contained new instructions for modifying the phase drive to extend their survival time. Tay called engineer Lee Su to the bridge, and they began implementing the changes while strange energies continued to seep through the hull. The crew was changing in ways that both frightened and amazed them. Navigator Cho Bin discovered she could sense things that were not there, while Medical Officer Yoon Ha found that her mind could process information much faster than before. The phase space energies that were slowly killing them were also enhancing their abilities. In unexpected ways, Lord Vextar paced his command deck aboard the massive Valorian flagship, his anger growing with each passing hour. His people had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, and no enemy had ever simply disappeared from their sensors. The golden-skinned aliens prided themselves on their superior technology, but now they faced something beyond their understanding. General Mordak deployed the most advanced scanning equipment the Valorian military possessed, ships equipped with. Quantum resonance detectors spread out across the solar system, searching for any trace of human vessels. The scanners could detect objects hidden in parallel dimensions, but they found nothing where the human ships should have been. Other alien races began to take notice of Earth for the first time in decades. The mechanical synthoids sent probe ships to scan human settlements, while the plant-like Verdani grew new communication networks to gather information, species that had ignored humanity, as unimportant now wanted to know everything about human technology and capabilities. Ambassador Kang Du received private messages from representatives of minor alien races asking if Earth would be interested in forming new alliances. These species had been oppressed by the major powers just like humans, and they saw an opportunity to change the balance of power in the galaxy. Dr. Park Min made a breakthrough while analyzing the quantum signatures of phase space. She discovered that the dimension between worlds was not empty, but filled with structures built by an unknown civilization. The structures responded to human neural patterns in ways that suggested they were designed specifically for human minds. Captain Tay led his crew deeper into phase space following the faint signals that Park Min had detected. They found vast ruins that stretched across impossible distances, buildings and machines that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The architecture was clearly alien, but something about it felt familiar to human eyes. Engineer Lee Su ran scans on the ancient structures and found that they contained dormant power sources far more advanced than anything humans or current aliens had ever built. The technology was so sophisticated that it seemed like magic, but Lee Su could tell it was designed to work with human consciousness. The crew of the Silent Thunder began to understand that they had stumbled into something much bigger than a new weapon system. The phase drive had not just hidden them from alien sensors, it had opened a door to places that had been waiting for humans to find them. Navigator Chobin discovered that the ancient structures formed a network spanning the entire galaxy. Each node was connected to others through phase space, allowing instantaneous communication and travel across vast distances. The builders of this network had left it waiting for the right species to claim it. Medical Officer Yun Ha studied the effects of phase space exposure on the crew and made an amazing discovery. Human DNA contained dormant sequences that activated when exposed to dimensional energies. Other alien species lacked these genetic markers, which explained why humans could survive in phase space while aliens could not. The realization struck the crew like lightning. Humans were not inferior to the aliens who had conquered Earth. They were different in fundamental ways that the alien scientists had never detected. The phase drive had not given them new abilities. It had awakened powers that were already part of their genetic heritage. Captain Tay understood the terrible implications of what they had discovered. If humans could mass-produce phase drive technology, they would not just win their freedom. They would become the most powerful force in the galaxy overnight. The aliens who had treated humans like slaves would find themselves at the mercy of beings they had underestimated for centuries. Back in the council chamber on Nexus Prime, the alien leaders continued to debate solutions to the human problem. None of their proposed strategies addressed the real issue that they were facing, an enemy they could not see, touch, or understand. Ambassador Kang. Do listened to their fear disguised as anger and felt hope growing in his heart for the first time in decades. The silent thunder drifted through phase space among ancient ruins, while its crew slowly transformed into something more than human. They had found technology that could change the fate of their entire species, but they were running out of time to use it. The phase drive was still consuming power faster than their reactors could provide. As the hours passed, the crew began to merge with the ancient system's learning, to control dimensional technology through thought alone. They were becoming living bridges between normal space and the realm between worlds. Their bodies were changing, but their humanity remained strong. The invisible Dreadnought had become something beyond what anyone had imagined, not just a weapon, but a key that unlocked humanity's true potential. The alien elite who ruled the galaxy were about to discover that the species they had oppressed for 50 years was their evolutionary superior. Admiral Zixara of the Nexarian fleet received orders to find and destroy the invisible human ships, using whatever methods necessary. The crystalline being had commanded space battles for 3,000 years and had never lost a single engagement. But this enemy was unlike anything in her vast experience. Her ship was the size of a city and carried enough firepower to crack moons in half. The Nexarians deployed quantum resonance scanners across 7 star systems, hoping to detect dimensional disturbances that might reveal the hidden human vessels. These scanners could peer into parallel realities and detect objects that existed in multiple dimensions at once, but they found only empty space where the humans should have been. Commander Veloth led the Shadow Corps, the most elite military unit in the galaxy. His soldiers were trained to fight enemies that used stealth and deception, but they had never faced opponents who could exist outside normal space-time, the Black Armored. Warriors prepared weapons designed to disrupt dimensional barriers. Aboard the Silent Thunder tactical officer, Ryu Han worked with Captain Tay to develop new combat strategies that would take advantage of their unique situation. They could observe enemy movements from phase space, then emerge just long enough to attack before vanishing again. The crew was learning to fight like ghosts. Dr. Yun Ha continued her medical research and discovered that prolonged exposure to phase space was actually improving human cognitive abilities. The crew could think faster, process more information, and react to threats with superhuman speed. The strange energies that threatened to kill them were also making them stronger. Engineer Li Su found ways to tap into the ancient power systems they had discovered in the ruins. The alien technology was so advanced that it responded to human thoughts directly. No buttons or controls were needed, just clear mental commands. The crew was learning to operate machines with their minds. The first real test came when Valorian forces attacked Earth's orbital defense stations. Captain Tay decided to intervene, even though it meant revealing their location to enemy sensors. The Silent Thunder emerged from phase space inside the Valorian formation, appearing like a ghost ship among the golden vessels. Ryu Han coordinated the attack with precision that amazed even him. The crew could see every enemy ship and predict their movements while remaining invisible to alien sensors. They unleashed plasma strikes that tore through Valorian shields and armor, then vanished before the aliens could return fire. To outside observers, it looked like invisible weapons were destroying the massive alien warships. The Valorian commanders screamed orders at their crews, but there was nothing to shoot at. The human ship appeared fired and disappeared faster than alien weapons could track, leaving burning wreckage in its wake. Lord Vexitar watched his fleet suffer. Casualties from an enemy he could not see. His golden face twisted with rage and fear as ship after ship exploded under attack from invisible forces. The Valorians had conquered hundreds of worlds with their superior technology, but now they faced something beyond their understanding. The psychological effect on alien forces was devastating. News spread throughout their fleets that humans could strike anywhere without warning. Species that had dominated the galaxy for millennia suddenly felt vulnerable in their own territory. No ship, no station, no world was safe from invisible human revenge. Communication intercepts revealed growing panic among alien commanders. They spoke of ghost ships that appeared from nowhere and vanished like smoke. Some claimed the humans had discovered magic, while others believed they were being attacked by supernatural forces. The truth was more frightening than any superstition. Captain Tay led his crew on raids against alien supply lines and military bases. Each attack was perfectly planned and executed. The Silent Thunder would appear, destroy its target, and vanish before enemy reinforcements could arrive. The aliens never saw their attackers clearly enough to develop countermeasures, human slaves on. Distant worlds began to report unusual kindness from their alien overseers. Guards who had been brutal for years suddenly became nervous and polite. The mere possibility of invisible human retribution was changing behavior patterns across the galaxy. Fear had shifted the balance of power. Dr. Park Min received reports of the successful attacks through quantum communication links. The phase drive was performing better than expected, and the crew was adapting to dimensional existence faster than. Her calculations had predicted they were becoming something new, something that could exist in both worlds at once. Navigator Chobin discovered she could sense the locations of other humans across the galaxy through the ancient network they had. Found the dimensional structures connected all inhabited worlds, allowing her to detect human populations on slave planets and prison colonies scattered throughout alien space. Medical Officer Yoon Ha made another breakthrough while studying crew. Medical data. Human consciousness was naturally compatible with dimensional energies in ways that alien minds were not. This explained why humans could survive in phase space while other species suffered immediate brain damage. The crew began to understand they were not just operating advanced technology, they were merging with it. The ancient builders had created systems designed to work with human neural patterns. The phase drive and dimensional networks had been waiting millions of years for the right species to claim them. Alien scientists worked frantically to develop new detection methods. Reality anchors that could prevent dimensional manipulation proved useless against beings who existed between worlds. Temporal scanners designed to track time distortions found nothing. New weapons that fired into parallel dimensions hit only empty space. General Mordak deployed his most advanced experimental weapons against areas where invisible human attacks had occurred. His forces fired quantum disruption bombs and dimensional shear missiles, but the weapons had no effect. The humans were operating from a layer of reality that alien technology could not reach. The Thylorian Empire contributed massive reality stabilizers designed to lock local space into normal dimensional patterns. The machines were powerful enough to prevent teleportation and interdimensional travel, but they had no effect on human ships that slipped between the gaps in existence. Ambassador Kang Do watched. The alien leadership grow more desperate with each passing day. Species that had treated humans as property now spoke of negotiation and peaceful coexistence. The shift in their attitudes would have been amusing, if not for the deadly seriousness of the situation. Captain Tay realized that every successful attack made their situation more dangerous. The aliens were beginning to understand they faced extinction if they could not find a way to fight invisible enemies. Some species were already proposing the complete destruction of Earth and all human colonies. As the only solution, engineer Li Su worked to expand their capabilities using the ancient technology they had discovered. The dimensional network contained manufacturing systems that could build new phase drives, but activating them would require more human consciousness than the small crew of the Silent Thunder could provide. The crew faced a critical decision. They could continue hit-and-run attacks that would eventually provoke total war against humanity, or they could find ways to bring more humans into phase space. The ancient network was vast enough to support millions of people, but the transformation process was dangerous. Dr. Yun Ha warned that bringing unprepared humans into phase space could kill them instantly. The dimensional energies required genetic compatibility and mental flexibility that not everyone possessed. They needed to find volunteers who could survive the transition and help operate the ancient systems. As reports of invisible human attacks spread throughout alien territory, panic began to replace anger. The galactic elite, who had ruled through superior technology, now faced enemies they could neither see nor touch. The balance of power was shifting, and everyone knew it. The Silent Thunder continued its ghost-like existence between worlds while its crew planned their next moves. They had proven that humans could fight back against their oppressors, but true victory would require a much larger force. The ancient network waited for more human minds to bring it fully online. Time was running out as alien fleets converged on human territory. The galactic elite had decided that if they could not fight invisible enemies, they would destroy everything humans had built. The final battle was coming, and humanity's survival depended on unlocking secrets that had waited millions of years. Professor Song Ia worked in the secret underground laboratories beneath the ruins of Seoul, analyzing alien tissue samples that had been collected over decades of occupation. Her research into xenobiology had revealed disturbing patterns in the genetic structure of the various species that ruled the galaxy. The crystalline Nexarians, the golden Valorians, the insectoid hive, queens, and dozens of other alien races all shared similar quantum signatures in their DNA. These signatures made them vulnerable to dimensional energies that humans could withstand. The professor realized that humanity had not lost the original war due to technological inferiority, but because they fought conventionally against enemies who could manipulate reality. Itself, Song Ae transmitted her findings to Dr. Park Min through encrypted channels. The implications were staggering. Every major species in the galaxy possessed natural defenses against conventional weapons, but lacked resistance to phase space energies. This explained why the Silent Thunder's crew could survive dimensional exposure while aliens suffered immediate cellular damage. Captain Kim Tae led his transformed crew deeper into phase space, following signals from the ancient dimensional network. They discovered structures so vast that entire solar systems could fit inside them. The builders had created a civilization that existed between worlds far more advanced than anything in normal space. Engineer Li Su ran detailed scans of the massive structures and found that they were not abandoned ruins, but dormant systems waiting for activation. The ancient technology responded to human neural patterns with increasing sensitivity, as if it recognized something familiar in their consciousness. The machines had been sleeping for millions of years. Navigator Chobin discovered that the network extended throughout the galaxy, connecting every inhabited star system through dimensional pathways. The ancient builders had created an instantaneous communication and transportation system that bypassed normal space entirely, but the network required human minds to operate at full capacity. The crew began to understand that their species had a connection to these ancient builders that went beyond coincidence. The phase drive technology that Dr. Park Min had discovered was not a human invention, but recovered knowledge that matched their genetic programming. Humans were descendants of the original dimensional civilization. Dr. Yun Ha made breakthrough discoveries about the transformation process happening to the crew. Extended exposure to phase space was rewriting their DNA, activating dormant genetic sequences that had been hidden for millions of years. They were becoming what humans were always meant to be. Medical scans revealed that crew members were developing new brain structures that allowed direct interface with dimensional technology. Their consciousness was expanding to perceive multiple layers of reality simultaneously. They remained human in spirit, but their capabilities were growing beyond normal limitations. Captain Tay realized the terrifying implications of their discoveries. If humans were descendants of the ancient builders, then every human on Earth and in the colonies carried the genetic potential for dimensional manipulation. The aliens who had enslaved humanity were sitting on top of a sleeping giant. Reports from Earth indicated that strange phenomena were occurring in human populations worldwide. People were experiencing prophetic dreams, enhanced intuition, and occasional glimpses of other dimensions. The phase drive experiments were somehow triggering genetic awakening across the entire species. The alien response to invisible human attacks became increasingly desperate. The Thylorian Empire deployed reality anchors throughout their territory, while the Corosian dynasty attempted to develop new sensor technologies that could detect dimensional disturbances. None of their countermeasures proved effective. Against enemies who existed between worlds, General Mordak coordinated a massive manhunt using every detection method known to galactic science. Gravity wave sensors, quantum field detectors, and temporal scanners were deployed across hundreds of star systems. The aliens were determined to find some way to locate invisible human forces before they lost control completely. Ambassador Kang Du received intelligence reports indicating that several alien species were considering the complete destruction of Earth as the only solution to the invisible enemy problem. The galactic elite were beginning to understand that they faced not just a military threat, but potential extinction at the hands of beings they had underestimated. Dr. Park Min worked frantically to decode the ancient systems that the Silent Thunder crew had discovered. The dimensional network contained manufacturing facilities that could build thousands of phase-capable ships, but bringing them online would require coordinated effort from human minds across the galaxy. The crew learned to navigate deeper regions of phase space, where the ancient structures were more complex and powerful. These areas contained what appeared to be command centers designed to control the entire galactic network. The builders had created systems that could monitor and influence every inhabited world. Engineer Li Su successfully interfaced with a primary control node and gained access to historical records stored in dimensional crystals. The data revealed that the ancient civilization had been human, or at least the evolutionary ancestors of current humanity. They had achieved dimensional transcendence millions of years ago. The records showed that the ancient humans had withdrawn from normal space to avoid interfering with the development of younger species. They had built the dimensional network as a gift for their descendants, who would eventually rediscover their heritage and reclaim their birthright as masters of reality itself. Navigator Chobin discovered that she could use the network to observe human populations throughout the galaxy. The genetic awakening was spreading faster than expected as exposure to dimensional energies triggered dormant capabilities in people who had never left their homeworlds. Tactical Officer Ryu Han developed new combat strategies that utilized the full capabilities of the dimensional network. Human forces could now appear simultaneously at multiple locations across the galaxy, creating the illusion of a vast, invisible armada rather than a single experimental ship. The psychological warfare potential was enormous. Alien commanders reported attacks by hundreds of invisible human vessels, when in reality, the silent Thunder was using dimensional portals to strike from multiple directions. The fear and confusion among enemy forces was growing exponentially. Medical Officer Yuan Ha warned that the transformation process was accelerating among the crew. They were becoming beings of pure consciousness, capable of existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The change was irreversible, but it granted abilities that no other species possessed. Captain Tay made contact with other human groups through the dimensional network. Scientists and military personnel on Earth and the colonies were beginning to understand that something extraordinary was happening to their species. The phase drive experiments had unlocked humanity's true evolutionary destiny. Professor Song A decoded genetic markers in human DNA that corresponded directly to the ancient builder technology. Every human carried the blueprints for dimensional manipulation encoded in their cells. The aliens who ruled the galaxy had unknowingly enslaved their own evolutionary superiors. The crew of the Silent Thunder faced a choice that would determine the future of both species. They could continue their guerrilla war against alien oppression, or they could begin the process of awakening all humanity to their dimensional heritage. The decision would affect every living being in the galaxy. Dr. Park Min calculated that full activation of the ancient network would require the participation of millions of human minds working in harmony. The process would transform humanity into a species capable of existing across multiple dimensions while maintaining their connection to normal space. As alien fleets continued to mass for a final assault on human territory, the crew realized that time was running out. The galactic elite had decided that destroying Earth was preferable to facing an enemy they could not understand or defeat. The awakening process would have to begin immediately. The ancient systems responded to human determination with increasing power. The dimensional network began to activate dormant nodes throughout the galaxy as more humans unconsciously connected to their genetic heritage. The invisible Dreadnought was no longer alone in phase. Space engineer Li Su detected thousands of dormant vessels hidden throughout the dimensional network, ships built by the ancient civilization and waiting for human crews to claim them. The Silent Thunder had been just the beginning of humanity's return to their rightful place as masters of reality. The final confrontation was approaching as alien forces prepared for total war against an enemy they could not see, touch, or understand. But humanity was no longer the conquered species that had served alien masters for 50 years. They were becoming something far more powerful and ancient than their oppressors had ever imagined. The Galactic Council convened its most urgent emergency session in 10,000 years, as reports flooded in from every corner of their territory. Invisible human forces had struck mining operations, freed slave colonies, and destroyed military installations. With complete impunity, the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime was filled with panicked voices as species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia faced extinction. Ambassador Kang Do sat in his designated section watching alien leaders who had once treated him like a pet now beg for his attention. Representatives from dozens of worlds approached him, offering trade agreements, territorial concessions, and technological exchanges in desperate attempts to avoid invisible human retaliation. The Valorian High Command presented evidence of attacks that defied all known laws of physics. Their golden warships had been destroyed by weapons that appeared from empty space, fired without warning, and vanished before sensors could detect them. Lord Vextars voice cracked with fear as he described watching his flagship sister ship simply explode from internal damage with no external cause. Admiral Zix Ara of the Nexarian fleet reported similar incidents across 7 star systems. Her crystalline vessels, equipped with the most advanced sensors in the galaxy, had detected nothing before invisible attackers struck. Their reality anchors and dimensional stabilizers proved useless against enemies who existed between worlds. Captain Kim Tae received intelligence through the dimensional network that every major alien fleet in the galaxy was converging on Earth's solar system. The combined armada would carry enough firepower to sterilize multiple star systems if necessary. The Galactic elite had decided that if they could not fight invisible enemies, they would destroy everything humans had built. The crew of the Silent Thunder faced their greatest challenge yet. Dr. Yoon Ha reported that extended exposure to phase space was fundamentally changing their cellular structure at the quantum level. They were becoming beings of pure consciousness, capable of existing across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The transformation was necessary, but it might not be survivable. Engineer Lee Su worked desperately to interface with the ancient manufacturing systems hidden throughout the dimensional network. The structures could build thousands of phase-capable vessels, but they required human consciousness to operate the crew of one experimental ship was not enough to activate the full potential of the ancient civilization's gifts. Dr. Park Min made a breakthrough that changed everything while analyzing the quantum patterns in phase space. The ancient structures were not just dormant technology, but sleeping guardians left by a previous iteration of human civilization. Her ancestors had achieved dimensional transcendence millions of years ago and built the network for their descendants to eventually reclaim. The revelation struck like lightning. Through the crew's expanded consciousness, current humanity represented the children of gods who had withdrawn from normal space to allow younger species to develop without interference. The galactic elite who conquered Earth had unknowingly awakened. The descendants of beings far more advanced than themselves. Navigator Cho Bin successfully connected with the primary control systems buried in the deepest layers of phase space. The ancient network recognized her genetic signature and began activating dormant nodes throughout the galaxy. Thousands of invisible ships that had waited eons for human crews started responding to her commands. Professor Song A transmitted critical data from her underground laboratory, confirming that genetic awakening was spreading exponentially through human populations worldwide. People were developing enhanced cognitive abilities, precognitive flashes, and the ability to perceive multiple dimensions. The phase drive experiments had triggered an evolutionary leap. The transformation was not limited to the Silent Thunder's crew. Humans throughout the galaxy were beginning to phase shift naturally as their dormant genetic programming activated slave workers on distant worlds simply vanished from there. Alien overseers becoming invisible and intangible without technological assistance. Medical Officer Yoon Ha documented the changes happening to transformed humans. Their consciousness expanded to encompass multiple layers of reality while their bodies became variable states of matter that could exist in normal space or phase dimensions at will. They remained recognizably human, but with capabilities that transcended physical limitations. Captain Tae realized they were running out of time. To prepare for the final confrontation, alien fleets were already entering the outer regions of the solar system, bringing experimental weapons designed to destabilize local space-time and prevent dimensional manipulation. The enemy had decided to destroy the entire region rather than face invisible opponents. The crew made contact with awakening humans throughout Earth's colonies and discovered that the transformation was accelerating. Dr. Park Min's phase drive had acted as a catalyst, triggering genetic changes that were spreading through quantum entanglement effects. Every human shared a connection through the ancient dimensional network. Engineer Lee Su successfully brought online the first wave of ancient vessels hidden in phase space. Sleek ships designed by humanity's evolutionary ancestors began emerging from dimensional storage, responding to human crews who barely understood their own transformed nature. These vessels made the Silent Thunder look primitive by comparison. Tactical Officer Ryu Han coordinated with the new ship commanders, developing battle strategies that utilized full-dimensional warfare capabilities. Human forces could now strike simultaneously across multiple star systems, appearing and vanishing faster than alien sensors could track. The psychological impact on enemy forces was devastating. The alien response became increasingly desperate as reports of impossible human capabilities reached their command centers. Some species proposed immediate surrender, while others demanded the complete annihilation of Earth and every human world. The galactic elite were fragmenting as fear overcame their unity. Admiral Zixara led a faction that wanted to negotiate with the transformed humans. Her crystalline people had ruled through superior technology for 3,000 years, but she recognized that they now faced beings who had transcended the need for conventional weapons. The Nexarians began broadcasting surrender offers on all frequencies. General Mordak refused to accept defeat and continued deploying increasingly destructive weapons against areas where human attacks had occurred. His forces fired planet-killing missiles into empty space, hoping to catch invisible enemies. The Golden Valorians would rather destroy the galaxy than admit inferiority. Dr. Yoon Ha warned that the final phase of human transformation was approaching. The genetic changes were becoming irreversible as more people achieved dimensional consciousness. Humanity was evolving beyond its current form into something that could exist across multiple layers of reality. Simultaneously, Ambassador Kang Do received a private message from Captain Tay through quantum channels. The transformed crew of the Silent Thunder was preparing to make their final stand, but they needed time for more humans to complete the awakening process. The battle for Earth would determine whether humanity reclaimed its ancient heritage or died as slaves. The dimensional network pulsed with increasing power as thousands of human minds connected across the galaxy. Ancient manufacturing systems that had slept for millions of years began producing weapons and ships designed by beings who had mastered reality itself. The descendants of the builders were coming home. Navigator Chobin detected massive gravitational disturbances as the combined alien armada entered the solar system. Their vessels carried reality bombs capable of collapsing local space-time and dimensional shear weapons designed to cut through the barriers between worlds. The enemy was prepared for total war. Captain Tay gathered his transformed crew for what might be their final mission. They had become more energy than matter, but their human consciousness remained intact. The ancient systems recognized them as true inheritors of dimensional technology and granted access to weapons beyond alien comprehension. The countdown to the final battle had begun as Earth's defenders prepared. To face every major military force in the galaxy, invisible human vessels moved into position throughout the solar system, while awakening humans on the surface felt their consciousness expand to encompass multiple dimensions. Engineer Lee Su activated the primary weapon systems of the ancient network for the first time in millions of years. The dimensional guardians that humanity's ancestors had left behind stirred to life, recognizing the genetic signatures of their descendants. The sleeping giants of phase space began to wake. The galactic elite, who had enslaved humanity for 50 years, were about to discover that they had been ruling over the children of gods. The invisible Dreadnought that had started as Earth's desperate gamble was revealed as the key that unlocked humanity's true nature as masters of reality itself. Time was running out as alien fleets prepared their final assault, but humanity was no longer the primitive species that had been conquered decades ago. They were becoming what they had always been meant to be, the inheritors of a civilization that existed beyond the limitations of normal space and time. The final battle began as every major alien fleet in the galaxy arrived at Earth's solar system, bringing enough concentrated firepower to destroy multiple star systems. The combined armada stretched across space like a metal constellation with vessels from dozens of worlds united in their determination to eliminate the invisible human threat. Captain Kim Tae no longer existed in a single physical form, but as a consciousness that spanned multiple dimensions simultaneously. He could perceive the alien fleet from angles that had no names in any language while coordinating with hundreds of ancient ships that emerged from phase space like ghosts made real. The Valorian flagship led the assault with Lord Vextar commanding reality bombs. Designed to collapse local space-time and prevent dimensional manipulation, his Golden Fleet fired the experimental weapons at Earth, expecting to watch the planet and everything around it simply cease to exist. But the weapons struck barriers that should not have been possible to create. The ancient dimensional network had activated planetary defense systems that existed in multiple layers of reality simultaneously. The reality bombs exploded harmlessly against shields that drew power from the space between worlds. Admiral Zixara watched in horror as her crystalline warships found themselves facing attacks from directions that did not exist in normal space. Human vessels appeared inside her formations, fired weapons that ignored shields, and armor then vanished before her crews could respond. The Nexarians had ruled through superior technology for 3,000 years, but now they faced beings who had transcended the need for conventional physics. General Mordak deployed every experimental weapon in the Valorian arsenal: dimensional shear cannons that could cut through the barriers between worlds, temporal disruptors that froze targets in stopped time, and quantum nullifiers that erased matter from existence. None had any effect on enemies who existed between dimensions. Engineer Li Su coordinated the ancient manufacturing systems that built weapons and ships in real time during the battle. The dimensional network could produce vessels faster than they could be destroyed, drawing materials and energy from parallel realities where matter was abundant and waiting. The transformed crew of the Silent Thunder led an invisible armada that numbered in the thousands as dormant ships throughout the galaxy responded to human consciousness awakening after millions of years of sleep. Each vessel was operated by humans whose minds had expanded to control interdimensional technology as naturally as breathing. Navigator Cho-Bin existed simultaneously on hundreds of ships coordinating attacks across multiple star systems, while the aliens struggled to understand how they could be fighting the same enemy in dozens of different locations. The human fleet had become omnipresent, striking everywhere at once. Dr. Yun-Ha monitored the transformation, spreading through human populations across the galaxy, as genetic programming activated in response to the dimensional energies released during the battle. Humans who had never left their home worlds were developing abilities that surpassed the most advanced alien technology. The psychological impact on alien forces was devastating as they realized they were fighting beings who existed outside the laws of reality as they understood them. Some crews abandoned their ships, others surrendered immediately, and many simply fled in panic as their weapons proved useless against impossible enemies. Ambassador Kang Du addressed the Galactic Council for the final time, speaking not as a representative of a conquered species, but as herald of a new universal order. The aliens who had enslaved humanity for 50 years now found themselves at the mercy of beings they had considered primitive animals. The insectoid hive queens were among the first to surrender their compound eyes reflecting terror as they realized their military technology was useless against enemies who could exist in multiple dimensions. Their surrender broadcasts were transmitted across the galaxy, encouraging other species to follow their example. Professor Song-A emerged from her underground laboratory as the genetic awakening reached Earth's surface. Humans throughout the world were transforming into beings of expanded consciousness while maintaining their essential humanity. Evolution was voluntary, but irreversible for those who chose to embrace it. Captain Tae's consciousness encompassed the entire battle as he coordinated attacks that spanned multiple layers of reality. The alien fleets that had come to destroy Earth found themselves systematically dismantled by forces they could not comprehend or counter. The Thylorian Empire attempted to withdraw their forces, but discovered that human ships could pursue them across galactic distances instantaneously through the dimensional network. Nowhere in known space was safe from beings who existed everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Dr. Park Min watched from the research station as her experimental phase drive transformed from humanity's desperate gamble into the key that unlocked their species' true destiny. The technology had not given humans new abilities, but awakened powers that were already encoded in their genetic heritage. The transformation spread beyond military vessels as civilian populations. Throughout human territory began to phase shift naturally. Entire colonies vanished from normal space, but remained visible to dimensional sensors operated by their transformed companions. Humanity was becoming a species that existed in multiple states simultaneously. Medical officer Yoon Ha documented the final stages of human evolution as consciousness expanded to encompass multiple dimensions while physical bodies became variable states of matter that could exist wherever needed. The transformed humans remained recognizably themselves, but with capabilities that transcended normal limitations. The alien leadership began to fragment as different species chose different responses to the impossible situation. Some continued fighting uselessly while others attempted negotiation. The galactic elite discovered that unity built on superior technology crumbled when facing enemies who had transcended conventional physics. Engineer Li Su brought online the ancient civilizations, ultimate creations, massive structures that could manipulate space-time on a galactic scale. The builders had left these systems dormant for millions of years, waiting for their descendants to develop enough wisdom to use such power responsibly. Tactical. Officer Ryu Han coordinated the final phase of the battle as remaining alien resistance collapsed under attacks from beings who could strike from parallel realities. The few species that continued fighting found their fleets simply disassembled. As human forces separated their ships into component atoms, the war ended, not with destruction, but with transformation. As humanity offered other species the choice to join them in dimensional transcendence or remain in normal space under human protection. Many alien races chose to evolve beyond their physical limitations, while others preferred to maintain their traditional forms.